Today, we're going to compare the GPU and EMC load profiles on the Jetson Orin Nano using two different language models. Up until now, we've been using the Gemma 3 4B, which is a 4 billion parameter model from Google. For this comparison, I'm also going to install the Gemma 2B model, which is a smaller 2 billion parameter version of the same model family. The goal here is simple. How does model size show up in real system behavior on an edge device like the Jetson Orin Nano? Let's first install the smaller Gemma 2B model. To do that, let's run the command Ollama pull Gemma 2B. Once that finishes, we're now ready to profile both the models using the exact same prompt. I'm going to start my Jetson Load Profiler tool. I've made some recent updates to it, so if you want to try this yourself, you can grab the latest version from the link in the description. We'll start the load profiler by simply running python3 loadprofiler.py. Enter your password if prompted, and now when the tool starts, it gives you two modes to choose from. The manual mode, which works exactly like before, where you start profiling, send prompts through OpenWeb UI or another interface, and manually stop profiling when you're done. And the second mode, which is the new one, is the integrated mode. This is what I'll use today. In this mode, the profiler sends the prompt to the model, lets you select the model, and records timing markers for different inference stages. Those timing markers are really useful for understanding what the model is doing at different points in time. So we'll go with integrated mode here. For the prompt, I'm going to use something simple and consistent across the comparison. So I'll say, give me a 5-sentence poem, and say OK. Now I can choose the model. Since we now have the Gemma 3 4B model as well as the Gemma 2B model, we should see both in the drop-down list here. Let's start with the Gemma 3 4B model and say OK. The tool now sends the prompt to the model, begins loading the model if necessary, and starts inference. This will take a while, especially for the 4B model, so be patient here. When the model finishes generating its output, the tool tells me when I can stop profiling. At that point, I'll press Ctrl+C, and we can wait for the load profiling plot right now. Alright, now that we have the plot for the Gemma 3 4B model, let's keep this aside and we can compare it to the smaller Gemma 2B model as well. Now I'll repeat the same process, but this time I'm going to select the Gemma 2B model. So we can now start our load profiler again, integrated mode. The prompt, I'm going to use the exact same one. So give me a 5-sentence poem and say OK. And this time, instead of Gemma 3 4B, we're going to choose the Gemma 2B model and say OK. This is the same prompt, it's the same hardware, and it's the same profiler. The only thing that has changed here is the model size. So let's wait for the inference to complete here. Great, inference is completed. Let's wait for the 10 more seconds of data collection. And now we can press Ctrl+C to end the profiling results. Great! Now that we have both plots, let's compare them over the most meaningful window from inference start to generation end. This duration is the best point of comparison because everything after generation end is just extra data collection time that we controlled manually. It's not part of the inference process itself. When we look at that window from inference start to generation end, we can see that model Gemma 3 4B took approximately 51.59 seconds, so almost 52 seconds. Whereas for Gemma 2B, the generation end happened around 32 seconds. That means that the smaller model completes inference roughly 20 seconds faster on the Jetson Orin Nano. So the natural question here is, Where are those 20 seconds coming from? That's where these vertical timing markers on the plot really help out. Let's look at these vertical markers on the plot because they break inference into clear, well-defined stages. Inference start. This is the exact moment when the prompt is submitted to the model. From here onward, the inference pipeline begins. The next marker is load end. All the way from inference start up until load end, the model is being loaded from storage into active memory. That storage could be micro SD card or an NVMe SSD if you have one connected. This stage is the model loading stage and is entirely about the model size. For Gemma 3 4B, the model load time is around 47 seconds, whereas for Gemma 2B, the model load time is around 30 seconds. So right away, we can account for roughly 17 seconds out of the total 20-second difference just from model loading alone. This makes intuitive sense too. If you think about it, larger models take longer to load into memory on an edge device like the Jetson Orin Nano. Let's zoom in to look at the next markers. The next marker is prompt eval end. The duration from load end up until the prompt eval end is the next stage and is called prompt evaluation. This is when the input prompt propagates through the model's weights and parameters. Here, the difference in prompt evaluation time is smaller in absolute terms, but is pretty significant in relative terms. Model Gemma 3 4B takes 0.93 seconds for prompt evaluation, whereas the smaller Gemma 2B takes only 0.12 seconds. Again, this aligns with expectations. A larger model has more parameters, so the prompt takes longer to flow through the network. The next marker is generation end. The period from prompt eval end to generation end is the token generation stage. This is the final stage where the model starts actually producing tokens, that is, words that appear in the output. For the same 5-sentence poem, Gemma 3 4B takes 3.5 seconds, while Gemma 2B takes 1.39 seconds. So even during the generation phase, the smaller model maintains a clear speed advantage. And yes, you can zoom into this plot too if you wanted to check that out. So let's put all of this together. When you add these stages up, most of the time difference comes from model loading. Smaller differences come from prompt evaluation and generation. All three stages consistently favor the smaller model on this hardware. Seeing all of these stages laid out on the same plot where you see GPU and EMC utilization makes it much easier to understand where the time is actually going instead of just knowing that one model is faster than the other. Another important difference that shows up here is in the GPU and EMC load patterns. The Gemma 3 4B model tends to sustain higher loads for a longer period of time. You see more prolonged GPU activity and sustained memory controller usage, as shown by the EMC plot as well. The Gemma 2B model completes the same task faster and releases resources sooner. That means lower average power draw and more headroom for other tasks that are running on the system. This matters a lot on edge devices where power budget is limited, there may be multiple workloads that you're trying to run, and responsiveness of the model can be critical. So the real question becomes, when does each model make sense? Gemma 4B is the better choice if you need higher output quality, more nuanced reasoning, or more creative responses. But you've got to pay for that with longer model loading time and inference duration and higher sustained GPU and memory load. Gemma 2B, the smaller one, is the better choice if you have simpler prompts, you want faster responses, and you need lower latency for your edge applications like robotics. This is especially useful when you care about responsiveness, you're running on limited power, or the model is part of a larger real-time system. In other words, Gemma 2B trades off some capability for speed and efficiency, and on a device like the Jetson Orin Nano, that trade-off is often worth it. The big takeaway here is that model size doesn't just affect output quality, it directly affects system behavior. By looking at GPU load, EMC load, and other load profiles, along with the timing of the inference stages, you can make much more informed decisions about which model to deploy, where the latency is coming from, in which stage for example, and how your application is going to scale with edge hardware like the Jetson Orin Nano. If you found value in this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more Jetson Orin Nano videos, and share this with a friend you think will find this helpful. Stay tuned for my next video. Until then, check out these other videos that you may find helpful.